Hello everyone, I'm Warhammer Quest. I was thinking about pulling this out, looking at it, trying to probably play some stuff. Still have all these things. I got everything in the baggies, spell cards, all the dungeon doors, everything you can need, dungeon tiles. There's the heroes. I think these are sprues from Mordheim. I think these are some Mordheim sprues. Got the books out here. Man, this game takes me back. Looking at all these. Did you know that Warhammer Quest was influential on the design of Kingdom Death Monster? We got all these tables and everything to go through. All kinds of rolling of D6 and everything. Got Chaos Dwarf Sorcerer. There's so many unique monsters in here. Because it uses the Warhammer system, it's made by Games Workshop, you can use all the fancy line monsters, so like the Skaven and everything are in here. Now, and they give you all the dungeons to set up, how to set them all up. Man, I remember playing this game. I wonder what it was like going back, thinking back on it, like, what was it that was so, like, influential about this game that was so influential on Kingdom Death? Because I remember playing it. It doesn't really play anything like Kingdom Death. It's a really cool game, but it doesn't play exactly like Kingdom Death. It's more like a dungeon crawler and stuff like that. And, like, none of the monsters really appear in Kingdom Death, as far as I can remember. Man, late 90s, playing Warhammer Quest. Playing it solo, using the giant doors to connect all these dungeon tiles together, going through a randomly generated dungeon, using the book to go through all these tables, spawning all the old Skaven because they had the Warhammer property attached to the game so they could use all of the variants, using the D6, so many D6 because it was a Warhammer game, of course, using the 2-hit rolls. Everything was usually a 4+, but they still had these huge, gigantic 2-hit rolls, rolling just dozens and dozens and dozens of dice, trying to kill monsters as you claw your way through this randomly generated thing. It was done with a deck of cards. That's how you generate all the rooms. Then you had to search for the specific dungeon tile. Then you had to fiddle around with the doors. The doors were so neat. They had like a little thing underneath them. Like they stood up on a thing. You had to slide the dungeon tile underneath. And it was like really difficult to do that, but so satisfying, these absurdly large doors. Then once you finally get everything all hooked together, you're ready to enter the room and fight the big bad monster. And lo and behold, the bad monster is always something super epic, like a dragon or Slenderman. I was reminiscing about Warhammer Quest. What's going on? Where's Warhammer Quest? Slenderman, why are you set up? Was Slenderman here the whole time? Slenderman is an expansion for Kingdom Death Monster. It is one of the currently 12 available from original Kickstarter 1 expansions. Slenderman is a replacement nemesis. Slenderman includes a whole bunch of cards, all the typical things you'd expect: AI deck, hit location deck, fighting arts, innovations, disorders. One of the things that makes Slenderman unique when compared to other Nemesis monsters is the fact that it includes crafted gear. Let's talk about how you get Slenderman into your core game for Kingdom Death Monster. How you were supposed to do it is you replace Armored Strangers, which is the Kingsman Nemesis in the core game. So, with that said, you can do it other ways. Normally, you can include everything you want inside of an expansion into your core game. You could include all the fighting arts that you get. You can include all the secret fighting arts. You can include all the disorders. You can include all the innovations. You can go ahead and include all that stuff, even if you don't want Slenderman here to actually be in your game. Same goes for settlement events. Kingdom Death Monster uses settlement events. Slenderman here comes with 2 of them. Now, the interesting thing about this is Slenderman is designed to replace Kingsman. That's how the book tells you to do it. That's how it's supposed to be done. However, you get this settlement event card, Slender Blight. that you can add permanently to your game if you want to. This settlement event is a way of bringing Slenderman into your game even if you didn't replace Kingsman, which is a neat thing. More expansions should really do stuff like this, but I guess with the node system and things coming in the future, won't have to really worry about it. The other settlement event is just a regular old settlement event that introduces the disorders and stuff. So the other one's fine, just like some of the other expansions have them too. That's just a way of getting the stuff you need onto survivors to make them more capable of fighting the Slenderman. With that said, how I always play Kingdom Death is I only include the things that I want, or the things that are coming from the nemesis that I want to use. So I would never include the disorders, the settlement events, all those things if I wasn't actually going to use Slenderman in the campaign. With that said, the fighting arts that come with Slenderman are not super great if you do include them just wholesale into your game. So for example, you have Blotted Out and Phantom Friend here. Those are the two regular fighting arts that come with this expansion. As you'll see, Phantom Friend pretty much just gives you Ghost Cat. Who doesn't want Ghost Cat? So that's great. Blotted Out is basically just not good. So it's when you suffer brain trauma, you gain a bleeding token. So with Blotted Out here, this is just, it's something you would never really want to have. But when you're fighting Slenderman, it's good. But if you're not fighting him, not so much. The other thing to talk about here is Dark Water Research. This is one of the innovations that's included with Slenderman. Dark Water Research, the innovation that gives you all departing survivors +2 insanity. Really good if you're fighting Slenderman, because then you'll be able to craft the gear and stuff that comes from fighting him. But if you were to include it wholesale, it's not a consequence of anything, so you would never be able to get it. However, if you were to use the settlement event and just include it, then you would get Slenderman, then you'd be able to include this. And with departing survivors always gaining +2 insanity, it's kind of a mixed bag, because if you ever depart with an entire hunting party that's all insane, can be very bad for you. It kind of forces you to make sure to play with certain things that benefit insanity protection, because this can make all survivors every hunt almost always insane. So as you're actually fighting the Slenderman, he's going to be removing himself from the board, but not only is he going to be removing himself, he removes survivors from the board as well. He traps them in this pod imprisonment, which is a lot like, it could be an extra dimension or another pocket dimension or something along those lines, where he traps them inside of this like black dark ocean, whereas where you originally learned from the lore was where the White Speaker sees him underneath this like the black ice inside this ocean where there's nothing but like dark roots and everything in the water, and then she sees this shadowy dark figure and that traumatizes her. It's so horrific that she blocks out the memories, and then when she thinks about them, when she reminisces about them, the Slenderman comes, and that's what brings him to the settlement initially. But with the Slenderman, when you fight him removing himself from the board or constantly reappearing near other survivors, coming in and out of this pocket dimension that he's jumping into, adding survivors to this dimension, it really, really, really makes you want to learn flow, surge, and dash mechanics, because you're going to need to fight him as like a glass cannon. You're going to need it. The fight is so cool. I love the way the fight works. Is when he does reappear, you really want to take advantage of that. That's when you want to surge. You want to use all of his own AI flows against him. You want to surge in that moment. It's really a different type of fight where you're more so attacking him at opportunity during these survival flows, dashing towards him, grouping together as survivors, because the way he comes back is he's always going to target the farthest one or whatever, but the more you group together, that way you can keep him everywhere, and then you finally, when he appears, you use your flows and then you attack. All at once, like glass cannons, you want to try to burn him down while he's on the board. It's a really, really cool fight. When you do defeat him, you'll be getting this dark water. You use them at the Dark Water Research, which is what I talked about, the innovation that adds the insanity constantly on departure. But you upgrade your your light forging with the Dark Water Research. You upgrade it, and as it goes by, that's where you get your settlement event. I mean, that's where you craft the gear, because there's no settlement location. So you look in the book. It's much like Flower Knight. I've reviewed Flower Knight on the channel before, but with Flower Knight, it's the same kind of like thing here, where you use the book. It's included there. Then you look, and then that's where you craft your gear. And the more you fight him, the higher you can research, the better gear you can craft. Now, before I get into all the cool gear and everything you can craft, as I mentioned, Slenderman does replace Kingsman. Kingsman has a lot of gotcha mechanics and everything, and Kingsman's not, it's boring because it's slow-paced fight. Kingsman is not great design, right? Because it takes away your movement and stuff, and it just slows down the fight. Slenderman is fast-paced, and he's constantly removing himself from the board, making it fast-paced because sometimes you just can't do anything because he's not on the board, so you just want to try to group together, as I was talking about. Doesn't mean that Slenderman is free of gotchas. So, if you don't like quirky fights like the Kingsman, Slenderman level 3, just because I'm going to talk about his gear, and you need this dark water, you do need to fight him if you want to make a lot of this gear, like the Gloom Katana and stuff. You require the crystal mold and stuff, so you'd have to fight a level 3. The level 3 is not without its quirks. The level 3 has a trait that limits the amount of insanity that you can get, and then you're just dead if you go over that insanity. And sometimes, you know, because you're drawing from decks and you're drawing hit locations and stuff, and whenever you have like blotted out, it's going to give you brain trauma. You can just roll like a 10 and get like 10 insanity sometimes. If you ever go to 15 insanity, you're just dead on the spot. So, the level 3 Slenderman is not super like, oh good, I'm going to be free of gotcha moments and bad luck. So I just want to say that. But he has gear. Come on. He has gear. That's so amazing. Let's talk about the gear you can get, and I'm not going to talk about everything. I just want to talk about my favorite ones from the expansion. So again, I don't really want to talk about all the gear. I'm just going to highlight some of the ones that I enjoy the most. So let's look here at Gloom-Coated Arrow. This is a concept that is really great. It's not always going to be the best playstyle for everyone. However, it does lend itself to a very high speed play. So you can see Gloom-Coated Arrow here. It's 5 speed, 6 plus accuracy, 5 strength. It is an arrow, it is cumbersome, and it is deadly. So you can only use it once per showdown, but after attempting to wound each hit location, place it on top of the deck instead of in the discard pile. So, what this is, it's representative of very, like, high-risk, push your luck kind of mechanic here. And it kind of works for high speed because you're putting the cards back on the discard pile. So, since it is 6 plus, you might not hit every single one. So on 5 speed, let's say you scouted out 3 locations. You know they're good. You know they have okay reactions because you're using, again, a bow, so you're at range. And then you can discard those back on top. If you don't hit all 5, you can actually get the same locations multiple times if you're trying to crit farm for really good crits. It's a really interesting arrow. I like this arrow. Next we have the Gloom Cream. Again, I'm just showing these off because more so I like the idea of these. So here you have, when you depart, you gain -3 hunt experience and -1 understanding. If you have no understanding, you die instantly. Really cool. A way of aging down your survivors. Next we have Gloom Katana and Gloom Sheath. These are very hard to build, but they work together. So the sheath itself has block 1, which is really cool. And then at the start of your act, you gain 1 insanity. Why would you want to be gaining 1 insanity? Well, again, most of the stuff in Slenderman stacks with insanity. But as you can see here, for the Gloom Katana, your insanity is added to this weapon's strength. So it has strength 0, but you can get this to be insanely strong. And then when Gloom Sheath is to the right of your gear, which is here, Gloom Katana gains Savage. So this is incredibly powerful when the two of these together. It's a very interesting concept. However, building these is kind of ridiculous. So, very, very, very difficult to do. Not impossible, but very difficult. Finally here, the cream of the crop, we have the Gloom Hammer. This is the best club in the game, pretty much. I mean, 2 speed, 7 plus accuracy, 13 strength is just absolutely ridiculous. So this is a club. Again, it is reach 2 and deadly. And then when you wound, at the end of your attack, gain monster controller tile and full move the monster directly away from you. This is absolutely ridiculous. Just absolutely ridiculous. Gloomhammer is such a good... It's clearly the best bone. It's the best club in the game. It's the best weapon from this expansion. Gloomhammer is just absolutely nuts for something you get from a nemesis, which normally doesn't give any rewards. So, with all that said, Slenderman, great expansion. As I've said in the past, I did not originally buy all the expansions when I got into Kingdom Death. I bought Gorm, Sunstalker, Dragon King, Dung Beetle Knight, and Flower Knight. Those are the ones I bought when I originally bought Kingdom Death. I do not suggest that people buy all into Kingdom Death right away. Slenderman falls into that area. Still, even for me, I would not say... I probably would have, had I known, I would have probably bought Slenderman right away. With that said, I still think you should play the core game. I don't think Slenderman is worth seeking out just because everybody says Kingsman is so bad. I think it's worth playing through Kingsman. Kingsman's not going to hurt you the first time you play through it. If you're having trouble with Kingsman, then you should buy this because this does replace it. But as far as what it adds to the game, it just replaces the one Nemesis, so it's not like it's a quarry or anything, but it's still great for what it is. Even replacing a Nemesis, Slenderman is great. I have not done all the current expansions reviews on this channel. This is only the 4th review that I've done. Eventually I will do them all, but that should indicate how much I like Slenderman if I'm willing to do the review on it before I do all the others. So, I think Slenderman is 100% amazing. It's really great. But I don't think you should seek out Slenderman because you're worried that Kingsman is so detrimental to gameplay, or that Slenderman is so much better than Kingsman you can't play the core game without it. I think you should play the core game, and then when you start looking for expansions, then Slenderman should be in one of those ones that you look to buy, because Slenderman can change up your game. It's a nice to have a Nemesis replacement. This is one that is a true replacement, unlike the other ones that are special showdowns and they're not really 100% true replacements. Yeah, we don't know what the note system and all that could change in the future, but as of right now, Slenderman is a true replacement, a true expansion to Kingdom Death. Really changes up everything you're doing. Slenderman is great. So, thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in the next video.